For this session, I wrote 75 words. For this session, I have written 100 words. It is a very, very stormy day today. I am quite amazed to be at the 11,300 word count mark, even though it doesn't seem like much. The fact that I have been plugging along at this slowly, steadily, intuitively, I feel like it's all hitting me now. I almost forgot to update you, but I finished 2 days ago Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and yesterday I finished Paul Selig's The Book of Innocence. I got about a third of the way through Howard's End is on the Landing, and then I ended up DNFing. I wanted a different vibe. I feel like every chapter was getting redundant because they all had that same beat to it, and I personally tire of that really easily. What I find interesting about that style of writing is that I know that it is meaningful and rich for the author, the one writing it, but because it's so personal to the author and the author's generation, like I find really no deeper connection with everything that's being said or mentioned, and I often find it to be, in my experience as a reader, read very shallowly. At a certain point, that kind of style, as presented in Howard's End is on the Landing, reads more to me like a list of things that I can't relate to or find deeper insight about. I feel like I'm very much being told what is important, deep, meaningful from the author's point of view, but I am not able to then really connect with it. For example, the author reminisces on her nostalgia for pop-up books, and while it's valid for her and super meaningful for her, it means nothing to me, but also the way that she describes that, those sentences don't add deeper thought or they don't open up new channels of thought for me. For this session, I wrote 159 words. It's Sunday, still moody and super rainy. I have crazy hair because I have been in a fever of writing. I think I stayed up until 4 a.m. I'm not really sure. And I'm pretty sure I did get up at like 5 or 6 also. And this is because I was bestowed with an inspiration to write a novella alongside the manuscript I'm currently working on. And it has been such an exciting project. I just checked and I have 883 words for my novella, which is a lot for me to write in one go, considering how contemplative I want this to be. But yesterday I finally received that big surge of inspiration and I sat to write it. I actually had my first line tucked away in a journal entry, so I used that and then the flow just happened. I love where I'm going with my current manuscript, and now that I have a consistent rhythm with my process of it, I wanted to stretch my creative muscles and do something new alongside of that manuscript. So I have a novella that I'm working on. I have the title, I have the concept, and I will keep you posted on my progress with that as well. This is something that I'm probably not going to write into every single day like my present manuscript. I think it's going to be something more that I pick up here and there when I feel. I also have new book discoveries that I have curated into my collection, so as they arrive, I will share them as well. I am very, very excited about these books because these are books that aren't really talked about much on social media platforms, so I am very excited to talk about them. For this session, I wrote 256 words. That was such a surprising turnout in my writing session. I did not expect to be able to write that much at all, given that I had been writing all night long. But it turned out, I'm really happy with what I've done, and I'm going to end it here and read. For this session, I wrote 79 words. And now for this month's total word count. For the month of September, I wrote 3,593 words. Here is a month-to-month comparison graphically. This is August, and this is my word count journey in September. Obviously, that graph does not account for the other writing that I've been doing, such as my novella, but on to the books. I didn't get much sleep last night, so I'm not fully caught up from my writing frenzy, but we shall press on. Let's get into the books. So new to my collection is Against Nature by Joris Karl Wiesmann. And I was drawn to this book because from what I've heard about this book in brief discussion, because it's not a book I've really seen talked about a lot, it really portrays the character in pursuit of aestheticism. And I think this one presents the character going into a decline, but I wanted to learn about what goes on in the mind of somebody who pursues art. I find that, unfortunately, we see and hear so many stories about artists losing their minds. And I think there are ways to live an artistic, creative life without going off the deep end. So I've been making a personal study on what it is to live life as a work of art. And actually I've been pursuing writing in my manuscripts as a form of art. Book number 2. This one was a surprising find for me. I never thought I would see the day. But I picked up T.S. Eliot, his 4 quartets. Let me give you a bit of backstory. I read Eliot in high school, The Wasteland. I absolutely hated it. And I thought, you know what? Eliot is not for me, and I never want to really dig deep into his works. I thought he was very full of himself, pretentious, and I was in high school, so I was very young. I don't think I really had the understanding and depth for him. But anyways, I was browsing around Barnes & Noble. My husband suggested us go there for a little impromptu date. And because I was in the spirit of writing a novella, I was looking for something short and slim to pick up and really delve into deeply. So this caught my eye, this slim little collection of papers, and I did some spot checks, and immediately I was immersed and drawn in. I will have to say that Eliot does have a way with his words, like there is such a power and command to them, and so I picked this up so that I could make a study of it. Book number 3. I don't remember if I shared this, but in case I didn't, I finally grabbed the massive omnibus of Jane Austen's famous novels. I think there are 7 of them in this collection. So I got that because I do love Jane Austen. I read Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, obviously. And I think I read Emma in college. I don't really remember it, but I do want to dive back into Jane Austen soon. Theory of Prose by Victor Shklovsky. This I picked up because I really enjoy Shklovsky's perspectives, and I think he's a good teacher. He's a mind to learn from. I can't remember if I shared this or not, but on a random Goodwill excursion, I came across this book again for like the 50th time, so I finally picked it up. I have been listening to Tolly on his podcast, and I enjoy hearing him. He's a very, very pleasant, wholesome person and a saint among us. But I've actually never gotten to read the book, so I have this that I want to read pretty soon. I think I'll read it in the month of October. On the note of my TBRs for October, what I've been doing differently this month is to slow down everything I'm reading, and towards the end of the month, instead of trying to finish whatever books I have left, I've decided to give myself some space to plan for my next month's reading. So last week and this week, I've been really thinking about what vibe I want to create for myself in October, but also in giving myself that space, I've allowed myself to really indulge in my finished reads in the aftermath as well. So rather than, again, just going into the next book, I stop, I really appreciate everything I've read. I try to do some creative writing workshops with everything I've read, and so from that, actually, I feel that that's how my novella came to rise. Concisely, I give myself space to think about what I want to read, at least the major works I want to focus on before the month begins. I do my reads, and then I leave some window of space and time to process everything that I've read, and then plan for the next month, and also write some new things for myself in light of having read all the awesome books that I have. Next up, we have Andre Breton. This is Earthlight. This is a collection of poems. We also have Andre Breton, Mad Love. Look at the pretty coloration of it. This is a novella. Yes, it's a novella. And then Nadja. This was a book that I caught reference of in Either Or by Elif Batuman, and reading the first line, it just, oh wow, this book is very magical. So we've got this book. It is in absolutely pristine condition. I'm so very excited. Next, we have 3 essays by Karl Jaspers. He is a German philosopher and psychologist, and he has very interesting thoughts. From the samples I read, he reads to me much like Jung, but that's my initial impression. Next, we have Mysticism by Evelyn Underhill. I actually had to buy a second copy because the first one got lost in delivery somewhere, but it actually did arrive like a month later, so now I have 2 copies, but I actually like this one better because it's bigger. The print is so much bigger. The other one is really tiny. We have next Memories, Dreams, and Reflections by Carl Jung. I really enjoy reading Jung. He takes forever to read for me because it's just, you just have to process everything so slowly, but I always walk away like life changed by reading Jung. Next up is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Atessa Moshfegh. And I actually read this book in the ebook format either early this year or late last year, and it is a very quick read. It is a very controversial book, and from what I've heard of other reviewers, probably has one of the most unlikable characters. However, I really do think this is a presentation on depression and other ways that people process it. So I have had some very intuitive, watery type friends who, instead of self-sabotaging by going out and making careless, reckless mistakes, they go more inward. They would stay in, sleep through their sorrows. And having seen that in life, I really feel that this actually is a very, although extravagant, depiction of processing grief. I still think it does carry a lot of realism. And I also think that this is a great feminist, modern adaptation of Oblomov. I could probably reread this book over and over and over again. There's just something so compelling about it and very honest about it, even though it comes across as very privileged in terms of perspective. This book is written in the first person point of view, and I think it is done in a very immersive and realistic way that draws the reader in. But also in terms of how Morphed discusses friendships that we keep around because of history, I think she presents these kinds of friendships very honestly. Lastly, we have Ovid, or is it Ovid? I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. The Metamorphoses. I got the Mandelbaum translation because I love Mandelbaum. So that is it for my very brief book talk. My brain is not braining today because I am super tired, but I hope that I was able to inspire some interest in books that aren't really often talked about on social media. I will end this vlog here, and I will see you in the next one.